Yeah, same here.
Why don't we get started? I want to thank you all for being here. And this is obviously, you're here for the trip. And I want to talk a little bit about this story that I told the students. Miles, who's from Apple Student Tours, came to me and says, wouldn't your students love to go on a history field trip to like Washington, D.C. and Jamestown and all those wonderful places? And I said, I doubt it. No. Then she asked this question, what do you think they might be interested in? And I go, these kids are artists, if they could get somehow inspired and be able to pursue an art education after high school, they probably might be interested in that. And for example, NYU or the Juilliard School, and just being around creative people and seeing what that would be like. So when they go into high school, they have this visual of what they might be shooting for as they prepare and go through the scope and sequence. And so we started working on that, and Miles said, well, let me take a look at that and see what I could come up with. And so a month later or 6 weeks later, she came up with this plan, and voila, we have this from something that, from a history trip that never took place to this potential to have a really good time and an inspiring moment for our young people. And as they go into high school, before they step foot into their first academic class or their first art class, perhaps they can have this idea of, this is what I want to pursue, and have this goal to achieve, and then move forward with life from there. So thank you for being here, and now I want to present Miles.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Well, as he said, thank you so much for making it. I know it's not easy during the week, on a weeknight, so I definitely appreciate the effort there. I'm Miles. I work with Apple. I just want to take about 20-30 minutes, talk a little bit about the company, talk a lot about the safety and the operational components of the trip and all of that. And then we'll go through the itinerary and registration and all that stuff. And then if you have questions, we'll do some questions at the end as well. Like you said, this itinerary is really awesome. I actually went to a creative and performing arts magnet high school, and I really wish that we had something like this. So I'm really proud of what he and I worked together with to create for you all. So first off, Apple Student Tours is a San Diego-based company. Our office is just up in Mission Valley is it still called Qualcomm Stadium? Did they change it?
SDSCPA.
Credit union.
Okay, by that. I was like, I thought they changed it, but nobody calls it that, right? We just still call it Qualcomm. Perfect. We've been around for almost 30 years. We take over 4,000 kids a year on these trips. We only do these middle school East Coast trips, so this is our niche. We are very, very good at what we do. In terms of safety and security on the trip, we have a 10-to-1 student to chaperone ratio. That doesn't include parents that end up going on the trip as well. So we usually end up with about 4 to 5 kids for every adult on the trip. So they are very, very well supervised. We also have a private overnight security guard in the hallway of the hotel every night. That way our chaperones can check their kids into their rooms at night, and they can go to sleep knowing no one's going to get in or out of those rooms during the night. They get a nice little report card every morning telling them how everybody did, if someone's making too much of a ruckus, and if someone is really making too much noise, or they stick their head out to see, is there really a security guard out there? And yes, they've tried to stop me before. I was like, I know I look young, but I'm not 14. Fine. Then, unfortunately, Mr. Bloss will get a knock on his door at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, and those kids typically don't make that mistake again. And then we also provide supplemental medical insurance for everybody on the trip. So should anything happen and they go to the emergency room or the clinic, the first $5,000 is automatically billed to us. We'll give everybody a red lanyard, and that will have your tour manager's cell phone number on it. You take that everywhere you go, so if you need it, for whatever reason, if you get separated, you have their cell phone number on you at all times. Our tour managers are 24-hour tour managers. They stay in the same hotels as the group, so wherever they are, there's always somebody from the company with the group at all times. And everybody from Apple gets background checked and drug screened, just like everybody who would work for the school or the district. So that's your tour manager, tour guides, your bus drivers, your security guards, all those people, they've all been background checked. In terms of the operational components of the trip, our flights are guaranteed nonstop in both directions. We typically fly Alaska Airlines, United, JetBlue. I know Alaska sounds weird, but they bought Virgin, so that's why that is. And we always try to fly you out of San Diego Airport. Obviously, if we can't do that, we'll provide a transfer bus up to LAX. They've been much better about their non-stops, especially to New York. So I don't anticipate that happening. We're not going to make you trek to LAX. In terms of, and we prepay the baggage fees as well. Super important. So once you get to the airport, you're not having to deal with that. It's all prepaid and ready to go. Our hotels are all 4-star hotels. We typically use the Marriott chains or something similar. We try to get them nice and close to the sites so they're not spending as much time on that bus. So in New York, we typically have them stay at the Hilton Midtown, which is right there in Midtown. It's just a couple blocks from Times Square. Or we almost always try to get them into the Marriott Marquis, which is in Times Square. That's where the ball drops on New Year's Eve. So it's right there. It doesn't get much closer than that. And they're both really, really nice hotels. For transportation, we have a 56-passenger luxury motor coach. We use a company called Elite Coach. You can look them up online, elitecoach.com. They're all Wi-Fi equipped. They have electrical outlets in the backs of all the seats, AC, heating, PA system, bathrooms, all that good stuff. But what I really like to emphasize about the bus and what really separates this trip from what you or I could do if we were going to caravan out there with a bunch of kids is it really acts like the group's own private limo because in the morning they just pull up, drop them off wherever they're going. It's crazy to see these giant buses maneuvering the way they do in Manhattan, but they do a really incredible job. They know exactly where to go, and it really saves them like 90 minutes to an hour every day. They're not having to navigate or anything like that. Most of this stuff, they'll be in Midtown, so they'll be walking around, but for those times that they do need to go to Lower Manhattan, it really does save them a ton of time, and of course getting to and from the airport. Meals are all included as well. Breakfast is typically a buffet, either at the hotel or a local restaurant. We do get the full buffet there. Lunch is typically on the go, so we'll give them a $20 cash stipend. That way, wherever they are, of course in New York, there's always a deli or something to pop into, grab lunch. That allows the itinerary to be a lot more flexible. And then dinners, we use family restaurants like Gordon Beer, BJ's, Buca di Beppo, those types of places. There's one night they'll go to Puglia's, which is a really awesome family restaurant in Little Italy. And we do get the full banquet menu at those restaurants as well. I get questions a lot about dietary restrictions, like if you have any allergies, if you're vegetarian, gluten-free, anything like that. Like I said, we take over 4,000 kids a year, so we run into that all the time. Just let us know ahead of time, and we'll be sure to make those accommodations for you. And last thing before I go over the itinerary, we have really amazing private licensed tour guides, especially our New York guides are really amazing. Most of them are East Coast local as well. They do an awesome job of keeping the kids engaged while they're either on the bus or just walking around. And it really is a completely different experience going there with these guides. I'll tell you, I have family in New York. I go there multiple times a year. And the first time I went on one of these trips, I started with the company 4 years ago now. And I was like, oh, there's so many things I've been missing all my life. In New York especially, just because you don't really know what to look for. So even just walking through Central Park, they're talking about the historical significance of the park, down to the rocks that they built some of the first skyscrapers out of, or I never really went by the Dakota building to see, where Yoko Ono still lives, where John Lennon lived, and things like that. So they do a really incredible job of just taking you to the most important places and really giving you the background to it. Or some of them, if you get the local guides, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's Denzel Washington's apartment, and that's Demi Moore's apartment, and she's trying to sell it, but nobody wants it, and stuff like that. So I get all the tea, and it's super fun. Yeah. All right. Now for the itinerary. I'm sure most of you already looked through it, but we'll just go through it. So we are going during summer break. So Friday, June 12th, you'll have your early morning flight to New York. You'll get there have dinner, check into your hotel, have a little bit of time for some shopping in Times Square, super fun. If you've never been before, the lights are so bright at night, it almost still looks like it's daytime, it's super cool. And then Saturday morning, you're having breakfast at the Rockefeller Center. You'll do your Midtown walking tour, so you'll see the Today Show window. They're still filming out there. They show you where to stand to get on that big camera sweep, so you can have your mom like DVR it for you. You'll go through Rockefeller Plaza, St. Patrick's Cathedral, this amazing cathedral in the middle of Midtown. It's another one of those places I've walked by so many times and just never thought to go inside. And even I'm not Catholic, but even if you are or aren't, it is a beautiful building just to see. Then you'll do your Broadway rehearsal workshop. Super fun. You go into a real Broadway rehearsal studio, and it's like there's people in there auditioning and having rehearsals and stuff, and they bring somebody from the show that you're seeing that night into the rehearsal space, and they teach you the choreography and all of that. Oh my goodness. Theater kids. Yes. This is amazing. And they teach you like the big group number, and then you do like a Q&A and all of that as well, so you learn what it's like to be, starving artist in New York and all of that. Then when you go to see the show that night, you see that person on the stage. They're actually in the show. So it is super, super cool. Then after lunch, you'll do a new Amsterdam theater tour. That's where Aladdin, I don't know if it's still playing there, but that's where it was or is. Really awesome theater. Go back and change for your Broadway show. You can bring a little bit of a nicer outfit if you'd like, and then you'll see that show that night. We have not picked the shows yet, but they're typically things like Wicked or Aladdin, or a bunch of the like good kid shows have closed. Phantom,
Kid show.
something like not kid, but like you know what I mean, appropriate. We're not gonna send you like To the Color Purple or hair. So Sunday morning, you're doing your New York City subway experience. At this point, you guys are like real New Yorkers. All right. Then you'll do your NYU campus tour, so you get to see all of that. It's right there by Washington Square Park, so you'll get to do your photo stop there. If you've ever seen that big arch, that's where that is. And then after lunch, you'll go see another Broadway show, matinee. Go see Grand Central Terminal. After that, a beautiful train stop. And then you'll do dinner at the Rockefeller Center and do the Top of the Rock that night as well. I love the Top of the Rock. I know people want to do the Empire State Building a lot, but the Top of the Rock is actually better because it's right there in Midtown. So you see Times Square, you can see Central Park, you can see the Empire State Building from there. I think it's the best view of New York City so far. Monday, you'll do breakfast at Alan's Stardust Diner. So that it's just a fun little diner, but they have performances there as well. Super, super fun. You'll do a Central Park walking tour and then go to the Juilliard School to tour there. Then you'll do a Meet the Artist workshop. So it's kind of similar to the Broadway rehearsal workshop, but it's more, you're not performing or anything. It's more in depth. So you do more of a Q&A. They talk about, their journey through the arts and all that as well. And then you'll do some shopping in Chinatown and Little Italy, super fun. So you can haggle a little bit with the shop owners there. And then, like I mentioned, you'll go to dinner at Puglia's that night. This is so fun. The food's really good, but they bring like this DJ in and they have the kids stand up and wave their napkins over their heads and stuff. They're like standing all on the table and the chairs. It's great. And then they'll go over to the Freedom Tower as well, which is the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. It is incredible. They have the whole thing set up in the elevator, so you get to see another amazing view. And this one's on the lower side of Manhattan. You'll see the Statue of Liberty and the Brooklyn Harbor and all of that as well. It'll be very, very fun. All right. Last day, you're checking out after breakfast, doing your walking tour of Lower Manhattan. So you'll do the Financial District, Wall Street, the Bull, and the Defiant Girl, those statues that I'm sure you've seen pictures of before. Trinity Church is where Hamilton is buried, so it's become very popular. Federal Hall, and then of course the 9/11 Memorial. And like I said, usually you'll get some local guides out there as well who talk a little bit about what it was like to be in Lower Manhattan on 9/11. And I always forget none of these kids were born when 9/11 happened, so it's really great for them to really see it and understand the gravity of what happened that day. It's a great experience. Then they'll do their Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. They do a whole cruise through there, and they get to stop on the statue and take pictures and all of that. And then after lunch, they're heading back to the airport. We'll give them a cash stipend for dinner at the airport. again, fly home, and we'll have you pick them up at the San Diego airport. This last page here, I'm sure most of you have looked at as well. This is our registration page. So the way you register is you go to applestudenttours.com. There's a big button that says register for a tour. Click on that. Your tour code is there at the top of the first and last page. It's about 147G4V. Type that in, follow the prompts, enter all of your information. When you register, it asks for a non-refundable deposit of $250. That goes towards the price of the trip. That's not in addition to it. So once you've paid that, you're good to go and you are registered. And we'll invoice you monthly to your email for $200 a month. So just make sure that you have the right email in there. A lot of times people make little typos and they're like not getting their invoices. And then you'll see there that payment schedule. So December 31st, you'll need 1,000 minimum in your account, and March 26th is next year is the final payment date. The tour price is a little bit above that. So all students are automatically registered at the quad occupancy price. So it's a board to a room. We typically have them choose their roommates a little bit closer to departure because their BFF right now might not be their BFF next summer, so we give them a minute on that. But they're all automatically registered at the quad occupancy price. So even if the number doesn't end up being divisible exactly by 4, we still charge them that price. Can we wait till the end for the questions? Is that okay? Thank you. If any adults want to go on the trip, you're automatically registered at the single occupancy price, which is that $41.44, so that's just one in a room. But if you're traveling with a spouse, or if you call the office, we can give you a list of the other adults. You can hook up with a roommate. We'll reduce you to that double occupancy rate of $32.44 there. And like I mentioned, everything is included in the trip. It's a lint in your pocket trip. You can head out there with literally nothing, and everything's covered: meals, hotels, food, or meals and food are the same thing. Flights, all of that. However, there are 2 additional costs that you'll see on your invoice. They're both optional, so you can choose whether or not you'd like them. The first one is a one-time only credit card fee. So it's just like at the gas station, they charge a little bit more for credit because the credit card companies charge. That's all that is. So you'll see there at the bottom, it's automatically added to your account, this $40 fee. And then once you've paid that, you can use as many different credit cards as you want. So it's just the one-time fee, then you're good to go. If you do want to avoid that, register online with just the $250. We don't charge you for that. You have to register online with a credit card, so that's fine. Anything past that $250, just go ahead and send us checks for the rest of your payments. And there's directions on how to do that on your invoice. And then once you've paid all of that by check after the final payment date, you'll see that $40 charge come off of your account. Does that make sense? Because I know it's confusing. I think I've mastered how to explain it now. The second one is the payment protection program, and you'll see that towards the bottom there. It's $179. It's basically cancellation insurance. Like I said, it is optional. I very, very highly recommend getting it though. There's always one kid who gets super sick or breaks a leg or something crazy happens right before the trip and they can't go. If that happens, you will get 100% of your money back. Or if you just end up canceling for a conflict or just, tournament or something comes up, you'll still get 75% of your money back. So it's a really good idea. You have until the final payment date, that March 26, 2020, to decide whether or not you'd like it. For that one, if you don't want it, you can actually have the office call the office and have them take it off of your account. Or you can just not pay it. We'll take it off for you after the final payment date and you will get the hint. So that is all I have with that. I just want to talk about the why quotient, the life lessons, and all that fun stuff. Obviously, this is such a great trip, as Mr. Bloss mentioned, for them to go on as they're heading into high school. I know that they're revving up for, post-secondary education, all that earlier and earlier now. So it's really amazing to have this opportunity for them to go out there, look at these colleges that are specific to their interests and all of that. This is, like I mentioned, a really amazing trip. None of our other schools do anything quite like this, so it is an incredible opportunity for you. And I don't really know of many other schools that do it at all.
That's the way we roll.
Y'all have a great teacher. That is the way we roll. So it's really awesome. But I think the life lesson part of it is really cool as well, especially if they're going out there without parents and all of that. I always have parents and teachers come back and tell me, like, my kids came back so much more mature because they had to be out there, being responsible for themselves and all of that. I do think it's really important for them to earn the trip as well. So if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing at home and at school, they're earning the trip. I know if I was at least doing those two things, I would not be allowed to do something like this, but that's totally up to you. But I think it's great. A lot of times students will help fundraise for it as well on their own. So they will give up money from Christmas or birthdays or both. Put that money towards the trip. I know the kids don't like me at this part, sorry. This is right after graduation, right? Graduation money, this can be their graduation gift. In lieu of that, I did my fair share of mowing lawns and raking leaves and cleaning houses when I was this age to earn money for these types of things. And I'll tell you, when I saved up my money for like a pair of shoes or something, and I had sacrificed for it, I was going to take real good care of those shoes. They were going to mean a lot more to me. And parents do tell me that. It means a lot more to the kids when they are having to sacrifice for it. It's not a small chunk of change. And, you know, as they're becoming these young adults, I think it's important for them to start wrapping their head around that. And like I said, it does mean more to them when they're doing that. And I will be sending out, if you put your email out there, I will be sending out a fundraiser letter. And it basically says, hey, I'm going on this trip. Will you sponsor me for X amount? I send it as a doc, so you can put whatever amount you want on there. Don't get crazy though. And you know, you send those out to aunts and uncles and coaches and grandma. Send that to grandma. Grandma's gonna send you some money for this. And you know, if you send those out for Christmas and say, hey, this is what I want for Christmas instead, you know, things like that, those really start to add up. Or even if you're just saving up for your own spending money that you're gonna take out there, whatever it is, you know, that's a great life lesson if you run out of money before the end of the trip. And we've all done that before, so super fun adult life lesson we get. Last couple things, just questions that I get a lot. I just want to go over the trip extensions. If people do want to extend the trip, you know, if you have family or something out on the East Coast and you want to stay a little bit longer, or you want to meet your child out there, whatever it is, that's totally fine. You just need to let us know by November 1st. We will take $200 off of your invoice for your return flight. Then obviously you're responsible for booking your own lodging and flights on the way home. Identification, kids don't need any government issued IDs or anything like that. If they have their student ID, great. If they lose it the day before, it's no big deal. Any adults going, you do need a government issued ID just to get on the flight and all of that as well. If you do have any friends that haven't made it yet, or who don't know about it, please make sure you can put their email out there. We can send them a packet, or you can take a packet if there's any extras out there. And one last thing, sorry, I forgot what day it is, but our registration deadline, which is not on that paper, so if you'd like to write it down, it's going to be March 29th, which is a Friday. I knew it was a Friday, but I couldn't remember the number. So if you register before that date, you'll be guaranteed a spot. If you register at any time after that, it's just first come, first serve up until 50, and then we'll just go on a wait list after that. And yeah, that's it. Do we have questions? Yes.
Yeah, so is there a minimum that need to register for it to happen?
Yeah, so it's 25.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks like.
And do we know how many are registered at this point?
I think only a handful, but we haven't had a meeting yet. So usually nobody registers. It's surprising that anyone did register before the meeting, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Bloss, and then we'll add more. So it's 10 to 1. So we'll add more as we know. I'm not sure. if we know
I'm looking
exactly.
for 7th grade teachers here.
Okay.
And my first reach out was Miss Walker. And my second reach out is going to be the arts teachers that are in the 7th grade categories or middle school.
Did you have a question over here?
Yeah. So like you know how it's gonna be oriented in like 4-person rooms?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean just like literally just is a 4-person room, like 4 people, like you can? And also, are there gonna be like boys and girls only set to some rooms?
Yeah. So it'll be boys and girls in separate rooms, and then 4 kids per room. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I saw another hand. No.
When do you get like the final dates? Because I know it said here.
I think that those dates are confirmed now, but
Okay.
we'll double check for your 2020. We wrote this before the calendar was out. I'm pretty sure it's out.
It's out now. The 2019-2020 calendar is out
I
now.
think that's always the week that they end up getting out though. So
Okay.
I will look right now.
The 9th is the last day of school.
Okay.
And
Yay.
The final, like the actual flights and all that one.
Yeah, so for that, we'll have a departure meeting 2 to 3 weeks prior to the departure. We can't have it any earlier than that because the airlines can change the flights after 4 weeks before the flight, and then obviously that changes everything else on the itinerary. So we'll send out an email and all that when we have that meeting.
And the
there.
final, like knowing which hotel.
Same meeting, yeah. Sometimes we can, if you like need to coordinate something, if you're picking up your child, if you email us or call the office, we can figure that out, just not super far out ahead of time, obviously, but the hotels we usually know a little bit in advance. It's just the flights, they can change.
Yeah.
Question over here?
The protection, fee,
Mm-hmm.
is that a one-time fee or is that monthly?
No, the 179, that's one time. You have until the final payment date to decide whether or not you want it, yeah.
Okay, and then if we don't have 25 students going, what's the percentage?
It really
increase?
depends. I don't see that happening, to be perfectly honest with you. It just depends on how it pans out. What we usually do is try to hook you up with another group that has a similar itinerary. So since nobody else has the exact same itinerary, maybe there's another group that's going to like New York and Boston, so we would just have you do the New York leg or something like that. So it's very rare that we would have to cancel, but if we did, then everyone gets a full refund, including the deposit. But there's so many people here, I think we're gonna easily get the 25, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
If parents were to go, but separately, not as part of the tour, could we like meet up with the group for some of
So
those,
if you're
or-
not like registered with us to
Correct,
go and you're
correct.
just there, yeah, there's certain places, like public places obviously you can do, you can't go to any of the like tours
Okay.
and like the Broadway rehearsal workshop, like those paid things, it's paid per person. But if you're in like, if they're in Central Park, if they're
Yeah.
in Washington Square Park, you know, Rockefeller Center, you know, you can always coordinate with them
Okay.
there, yeah. Yes.
If you're not gonna go here next year, are you still gonna be able to go on that trip?
Yeah, you asked me before, right? So you would have to ask Mr. Bloss. We allow it. It would just depend on, I think,
I don't think that's a problem.
because it's not a school sponsored trip, so you would still be okay. Did I see another hand?
I mean,
Oh.
what if I had an 8th grade brother or sister that would like to go with us?
Who's in 8th grade now, and they'll be in 9th grade?
Mhm.
That, again, is actually up to you. So we allow it. Whether or not you want them to room with the other 8th graders is up to you. As long as they're comfortable with it, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what if they're still in, like they'll still be in high school here, but not necessarily 9th grade?
So that gets a little tricky because rooming high schoolers with middle schoolers can get a little iffy. So if you do have an older student that wants to go, I would register them as an adult and they would pay the single occupancy fee, or if they have another friend, they can just go to a room and pay the double occupancy rate. That's what I would recommend, because just having like a 10th grader and an 8th grader rooming together is a little not really what we do. Yes.
So, I'm trying to figure out the words to explain this. If the student is already down there, can they still attend?
If they're already in New York.
Yeah.
Well, they would need an adult to get them to the group and from the group. So if you're doing something like that, you just call our office and coordinate it. You have to get like forms notarized and stuff like that,
Right.
which is why we say by November 1st to get that
Right,
done.
but with this price will be the same.
So if you're not, you get reimbursed $200 for the flight, whichever. So if it's both flights, you get $400 total.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
Let's say as an adult, you sign up for it, is that transferable to another adult in case you can't go?
That I'm not sure. I think sometimes they can do it. I think it depends on how far out it is, but I'm not totally sure. So if you call the office, you can ask them the numbers on the top.
Okay.
They would know more about that because they do all the like billing and stuff. I don't know the ins and outs of all that. I'm sorry. Any other questions? Yes.
Back in the dark ages when I went on the 8th grade East Coast tour trip, back then it was parents that were the chaperones. Does that ever happen? Or, I mean, like if we're willing to go through all the background checks and all that kind of stuff, like I didn't know if that changes the dynamic of anything. And I hate to be the one that asks this question, but I mean, do the adults that go, do they have to go through any background checks?
So it depends on the school. So that actually would be more of a question for you
Okay,
and maybe the
okay.
administration.
I want to have the students' teachers, and the reason is because there's relationships there,
Right.
and if any redirection needs to be done, it can be handled in such a respectful way, and it's been done before. And I personally feel that parents, I could be chaperones, and my first choice would be the students, teachers, and then if we need more chaperones, I definitely would want to reach out to parents, and that would be the first choice outside the students' teachers.
Usually parents don't want to be chaperones and they want to go and do the trip themselves, and the kid is really happy with that, like them pretending they don't know them. So that's usually how it goes. Yeah.
I have a question, Miles.
Yes.
There's a lot of opportunities for the performing artists. Will there be opportunities for visual artists to get something out of this trip?
I mean, there's stuff all over the place. We can look into maybe trying another museum, maybe swapping something out or something like that as well. But it just, obviously the itinerary can change here and there depending on
I want to make sure
shift
that
it.
our visual artists and all of our creative people have an opportunity to get something really spectacular. I do want to keep the performing artist pieces, but I wasn't sure if I saw anything for our visual artists.
Yeah, I think we geared it mostly towards the performing arts, but we can always, swap something out.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you're the sponsor 50 spots? You need
Yes,
50.
50.
And that include adults or 50 students?
50 travelers, not including the chaperones. So
And if you get 50 or plus, is there a cap where you stop?
we'll have a wait list. So we'll let everybody know once we know our numbers, who's on the wait list and all of that, and just goes.
Do you ever get a case where you get 50 students and there's no room for parents?
Diane, come here.
Because it looks like it's a good turnout.
Yeah, we do have that sometimes. It's usually first come, first serve. Sometimes we'll give students priority and then we'll give parents
videotaped
over
it.
wait. Yeah, just depends.
So you can tell Mom
Every
that
school's
I
different. All
videotaped
most of the schools that I have that are huge, they just don't even allow parents to go.
Right.
So we don't end up having them on the waiting list anyway. Yeah. Any other questions?
No questions? I'm a travel agent, you guys, I'm just saying. Just saying.
You won't be traveling on a 737 MAX, maybe.
Too soon.
Yes.
Anyway, all right. Well, if you do have more questions, I will be up here. But other than that, thanks so much again. Make sure you grab a packet for your friends who weren't able to make it. If you have friends who want to room with you. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Oh, one more thing. I videotaped